He was Ventura's newest Hell's Angel, the young outlaw handpicked while his president sat behind bars.
I know that Josh had a patch, and I know that was a target, but nobody has the right to take anybody's life. And no one had the right to take Josh away from us.
So who pulled the trigger that night in Cave Creek, Arizona? Was it a stranger in the dark, a rival with a grudge, or someone far closer than anyone dared to imagine?
So in an effort to find his killer, the family is offering a $20,000 reward for information, and it can be submitted anonymously through Silent Witness.
It's the family that's taken that money, put it into an account and said, I want this to go to that reward. That's how seriously this family wants to at least get the gift of an arrest.
His father upped the ante in hopes that maybe time's gone on and people weren't afraid to talk. We loved him. He was our heart, just like the rest of our kids are. But we want an answer. I want to see a face.
This is the story of silence, betrayal, and a murder that still hangs over Ventura like desert heat. December 2001. The air inside the federal detention center was thick, heavy with the smell of concrete and steel. George Christie sat behind bars.
But we're going to go back to December of 2001, and I was in the middle of fighting a 59-count indictment, and I was in jail with a protective order, which did not allow me to talk to any Hells Angels.
And yet, even in solitary confinement, word traveled. A name was whispered through the cracks of prison walls: Josh Harber.
Josh Harber was one of the young guys. He'd been around my boy and some of the other younger guys. He was a little bit younger than them, but he was a young outlaw type with real old school values.
He wasn't some wild hanger-on chasing the patch for glory. He dressed like David Ortega, moved like him.
You know, he hung around David Ortega a lot. He's learned a lot of stuff from David, dressed like David and whatnot.
But to others, he looked like the future, a new soldier forged in the image of the past. Christie had a decision to make. David Ortega sent word. They were bringing Josh up for a vote.
But somehow David Ortega got word to me in solitary confinement that they were bringing Josh up for vote. He wanted to know how I felt about it. You know, I put all my trust in David, and I sent word back to David he had my support.
And soon after, the call came. A prison visit, unexpected, unannounced. Christie walked into the visiting room, and there sat Josh Harber, no longer just a prospect, but a Hells Angel. The moment was surreal. Behind glass and walls, Christie shook his hand and welcomed him into the club. He believed Josh would carry Ventura forward. But in the outlaw world, belief is fragile, and loyalty is always tested. Josh had barely tasted the patch before fate closed in. Just 6 months after that visit, he would be standing outside a bar in Cave Creek, Arizona, and within seconds, he'd be dead. So what happened between those two moments? How did a young man, baptized into one of the most feared clubs in the world, end up executed in cold blood half a year later? Was it a random act of violence, or was Josh marked from the very beginning? And if he was marked, who gave the order? His rise into the Ventura charter was swift, almost too swift. His death, violent and public, sent shockwaves through the outlaw world. But in the silence that followed, no brother spoke, no truth surfaced. The story of Josh Harber begins with hope, loyalty, and a patch stitched in fear. But it would end in blood on desert asphalt. Hey brothers, tired of YouTube's BS and censorship? It's time to break free. That's why I've shifted gears to Patreon, where I can bring you the raw, uncensored content you crave. Join my Patreon crew and get an insane package deal. Exclusive early access to all videos, days before YouTube, 100% ad-free viewing experience, uncensored, no-holds-barred community discussions, double the content, 2 killer videos every single week, VIP access, direct interaction with yours truly, inside scoop, exclusive biker world updates you won't find anywhere else. Ready to join the elite? Hit that Patreon link now. Your support doesn't just keep us rolling, it fuels a revolution of uncensored, unrestricted content. Join now and unlock a world of exclusive benefits. June 2002, Cave Creek, Arizona. The desert air was thick with heat as night fell over the Kill Coyote Wild Bar. Inside, music blared, glasses clinked, and the outlaws of Ventura mixed with locals and hangarounds. But outside, under the glow of neon, a moment was unfolding that would change everything. Josh Harber stood near the entrance, calm, cigarette in hand, unaware he was seconds from death. Witnesses later said a man approached him.
But Josh was standing out in front of a bar, and he was approached by an unidentified man. They had a brief conversation, didn't appear to be hostile, and they were close enough where they could touch each other.
And then it happened. The bigger man reached into his waistband, pulled a pistol, jammed it under Josh's chin, and fired. One shot, cold, clinical, fatal. The shooter walked away, slipping into the night. Some witnesses swore he was a white man, 6'1", heavyset.
The description was pretty vague. What we're hoping is that somebody who was in that area, outside the bar, in the area, driving by, has that critical piece of information that we don't have.
Others insisted he was Mexican with long curly hair, a face familiar in Ventura's circle.
I was told by members of the club that were there that the shooter was not white. He was Mexican with long curly hair. And that fit the perfect description of somebody that I ultimately felt was responsible.
Confusion clouded the scene, and as Josh's body hit the ground, the silence of the outlaw code fell heavy over everyone watching. So who was the man behind the gun? Was this a personal vendetta playing out on Arizona asphalt? A message sent from rivals? Or was it something darker, a betrayal rooted in the politics of the club itself? What followed only deepened the mystery. Weeks later, Hoover, the Cave Creek president, was murdered right down the street.
Now, not long after Josh's murder, Hoover was murdered, and right down the street from that same bar. And law enforcement and Hell's Angels as well said Sonny and I were feuding, and it was a classic tit for tat, and that I had ordered the retaliation.
But inside Ventura, whispers told a different story. Some believed Josh had been marked long before that night. His death less about chance and more about old debts and simmering grudges. In the aftermath, detectives descended on Ventura. They questioned members, pressed for leads, pushed for cracks in the silence.
And when I got back from Spain, I'd been here for a little while, and 2 Phoenix cold case detectives showed up at my home here in Ventura. This was after I got back, and they wanted to know about Josh Harber. And, this wasn't the first visit. The first visit from the homicide detectives came after Josh's murder in 2002. They interviewed several Ventura Hells Angels members at my daughter's law office. And of course, nobody saw anything, and my daughter had warned the homicide guys before they came out, nobody's going to say anything. No one's going to make a statement. But a little about Josh Harber.
In the outlaw world, the law doesn't solve murders. Silence does. And Josh's murder was sealed under that silence. His killer never brought to justice. A young man patched into the Angels in December was gone by June, his blood soaking the desert. His death wasn't just a tragedy. It was a question mark, a reminder that in this world, the line between brotherhood and betrayal is razor thin. The name that surfaced first was one every Ventura Angel already knew: Robert Chico Mora. A man with a history as violent as it was unpredictable. He'd once been close, running with Ventura's orbit, but by the early 2000s he was more enemy than ally. Old grudges ran deep. bail money disputes, disrespect over stolen VIN numbers, and a growing reputation for reckless violence. Chico's past was littered with reasons someone might want payback. George Christie remembered him as a loose cannon.
And, over the years, my focus shifted and focused on one person, and that person was Robert Chico Mora. I know he was capable of taking care of business. He'd done time for murdering some guys in a little bike club, a couple of guys. I think the club might have been called Bat Company. I don't remember. And there was bad blood between Ventura and Chico. Chico and I had words before I got arrested in the Ventura clubhouse. My daughter had represented him. We bailed him out. And not only did he jump bail on us, he really kind of humiliated my daughter. She had a thing all set up in court, and he never showed. And I took that personal. You don't fuck with my family.
A man who never understood the rules, who never lived by the code.
And Chico just had no respect. So he left the clubhouse. Him and I had words at the clubhouse. I thought it was going to come to blows. He left town, and that was basically the last time I saw him in person.
Christie suspected him immediately when Josh fell. He could still see the picture in his mind. Chico, heavyset, the kind of man witnesses swore they saw outside the Kill Coyote bar. But suspicion isn't proof, and proof never surfaced. Chico had history with Ventura, history with Ortega, and a record that included doing time for murder.
But Chico's charter, they got in an argument, and the Ventura guys pulled the Arizona member's patch, and that turned into just a friggin' mess. And I tell you, I didn't have a lot of respect for Chico, and I'll tell you why. Certainly the incident with my daughter, his cavalier attitude just towards Ventura, the disrespect he showed us.
Did Josh stumble into Chico's crosshairs? Or was Chico's hand guided by someone else's orders? Because behind the smoke and rumors, there was more at play. Cave Creek and Ventura were never as close as they looked. Whispers of politics and resentment flowed like whiskey. Hoover, the Cave Creek president, had been at odds with Christie, and weeks after Josh's murder, Hoover himself was dead. Was this coincidence, or was it connected? Was Josh just collateral damage in a larger feud between charters? The desert remembers even if men forget. Outside the Kill Coyote Wild Bar, the asphalt where Josh Harber fell has long since been washed clean. No candles, no memorials, no plaques. Just silence. The kind of silence that swallows stories whole. Detectives pressed hard after the murder. They went to Ventura's doors, questioned Christie's family, tried to break through the wall. But Ventura stayed quiet.
Hi, I'm Sergeant Darren Birch. Silent Witness and the Phoenix Police Department need your help solving the following cold case murder. Back on Saturday, June 8, 2002, 24-year-old Josh Harber was shot and killed after walking out of the Coyote Wild Bar and Grill, the area of 17th Avenue and Bell Road in Phoenix.
Christie's daughter told them what they already knew. No one was going to talk. And she was right. In the outlaw world, silence isn't just protection. It's law. Rumors filled the void. Law enforcement claimed Christie ordered retaliations, pointing to European Hells Angels who visited Ventura in the aftermath. Others whispered that Josh's killing was part of a larger feud, a move in a deadly chess game between charters. Every theory painted a different picture, but none could be proven. And then there was Chico. Christie never let go of his suspicion. Years later, their paths crossed again, and Christie left him with a promise.
Do I have a message for Chico? Well, he's dead, but if he was to get the message from me, I'd just say, hey, you know what, Chico, I'll see you in hell, man, and we'll deal with this then.
Was it guilt, anger, or prophecy? If Chico pulled the trigger, why was justice never served? And if he didn't, then who else wanted Josh erased from the map? 2 decades have passed and the questions linger like smoke that refuses to clear. Was Josh the victim of a personal vendetta? A casualty of club politics? Or just a pawn crushed in a power struggle far bigger than himself? The truth is buried. Buried in silence, buried in fear, buried in the outlaw code that protects brothers even in death. And for Josh Harber, a young man who rose fast and fell faster, the only legacy left is the mystery of who killed him and why. Because in the Hells Angels, stories don't end with answers. They end with silence, and silence always leaves the darkest shadows behind.